So my story is, I guess my career path story is a little bit strange. I went to school for media and art at our college in 1999, which was kind of a weird time because it's when digital video was just turning over from VHS, and I had to do years of VHS before I could even start using computers, and I thought it was kind of a bit behind the times. And long story short is I kind of dropped out of art school and started a construction company and did that for 10 years. So I didn't really get into this stuff until later and until the YouTube years, and I started kind of making weird little musical video remixes on YouTube and doing all kinds of crude motion tracking and just kind of making funny videos on YouTube. And eventually people started hiring me to remix their content. So I'd be doing some advertising work, like Ken Block from DC Shoes. He's a crazy race car driver. He hired me to kind of add visual effects to his car, like pterodactyls were attacking it and stuff like that. And that kind of started a career of doing video remix commercially, and that kind of morphed into me doing 3D animation, where I'm at kind of now. And but I've always kind of stuck in the comedy world of VFX. That's kind of been my specialty. So that's, in a nutshell, that's my story. So my typical day, I wake up pretty early. I'm usually up at like 6 o'clock in the morning, and my house is like down the street from my studio. I have kind of a little mini warehouse building in Toronto, 2 floors. Like downstairs is kind of a workshop, and then upstairs is all my nerd zone with all my computers and everything. So I get to the studio early, fire up all my computers, my render farm, and kind of start digging into my projects. Usually I have at least 1 or 2 commercial projects on the go. And yeah, so it's mostly sitting at the computer trying to remind myself to exercise in between, or I'm gonna just get totally out of shape. But yeah, so I get up pretty early and I get cracking, and try not to get into the vortex of internet distractions, and focus on my work and get my render set up for the nighttime. So that's my typical day. So I started my career, like I said, it kind of all started on YouTube. It's sort of like uh, I never really meant to do it as a career because I was deep in my construction company. I was doing like big renovations and structural remediation and all these buildings in Toronto, working with architects and engineers. And on the side, I was kind of like managing bands and like making music videos and kind of having fun, just making weird, funny content and throwing it online. And it just kind of got more and more popular. I had a few viral remixes that made the rounds online in the early YouTube days, and it kind of trickled into doing commercial work where people hired me to remix their content, like doing jobs for like Old Spice came to me with all these like already done commercials, and they're like, can you like cut them up and turn these 5 commercials into a new one, like by adding visual effects? So I kind of threw things through the blender, and yeah, it kind of just snowballed from there and got more and more commercial work doing my weird remix style. So yeah. So as far as my mentors go, I early on in YouTube days, I came across this guy named Davey Force, who he did the intro titles to Tim and Eric Awesome Show, and I remember seeing his name on there and looking him up on YouTube, and he was doing all this crazy video remix stuff. Like he was in this band called TV Sheriff, and he was a TV sheriff. We had a MIDI controller using a program called VJam, and he was like playing the MIDI controller that was playing playing video signals and like remixing video by pressing his MIDI controller. And he made all these songs, and there was a DJ and a guy in an ape costume, and he was doing all this crazy stuff. So he's kind of been my remix hero for a long time. And eventually we started working together, and we teamed up because we met up like 10 years prior, but we teamed up on a short film called The Chickening, which ended up going to Sundance and TIFF and all these film festivals. And we kind of took Stanley Kubrick's The Shining and turned it into this comedy where Jack Nicholson is applying for a job at this chicken theme park. So Davey and I teamed up on that, so it was really cool to kind of like team up with a guy that I had admired his work for so long. And another guy I would say is a guy named Syriac on YouTube as well. He's got this amazing, almost like fractal kind of 2D animation. So he's kind of one of my After Effects heroes. And I actually got to work with him as well because I had this job working on the Conan O'Brien show, and every year I was doing a remix of the whole season. So I think on the third one I did 4 of them consecutively over 4 years, and on the third one I hired him to do an intro sequence for it where he turned Conan into this spider with all these arms and like started messing with all the celebrities and stuff like that. So we teamed up on that, which was kind of cool. So for me it's been awesome to kind of meet my YouTube and remix heroes and animation heroes and be able to work with them. It's been pretty awesome. I'm like flattered that they want to work with me, so it's been cool. So yeah. Okay, so my inspiration, I don't know where it comes from really. It's hard to say. It's so different from thing to thing. So a lot of the reactionary stuff, like the political satire stuff, it'll be because I worked for Conan for so many years, where all my only job for at least 3.5 years was watching television, going through all the news sites, and like just trying to find something that I could turn into something funny. Like, so you were kind of waiting for a politician to screw up or for some controversy in the news. So I was always on the hunt every day all those years. And now I kind of still do it, where I'm like, I have this news media addiction and watching all this, like just taking in all this content. So a lot of it is reactionary to content that I see, and I want to just turn it into something. And I don't know, inspiration kind of hits you when it hits you when you're watching that stuff. It'd be like, oh, that'd be funny if that guy's head exploded, or if their eyes rolled back in their head while they're talking, and you can kind of just transform something into something new. And it's I don't know, I think part of my talk today too is about, because I started as a video remix artist, taking like video footage and just turning it into something else. I still kind of do that with productions that aren't remixed. Like if I'm doing something new, I have like a humongous library on my computer of all these assets, 3D models, textures, stock footage, stock imagery, stock everything. Like, so music, sound effects. So kind of like have this library, and I'm super familiar with all these assets. So now it's just kind of like a mix and match thing. So sometimes I'll start with a 3D model of a guy and then add something else, and you just start building stuff, and it just kind of happens. Kind of a tough question, because I guess I don't really suffer from that too much. There's always something to do. If anything, there's kind of I have the opposite problem, where there's too many ideas or too many options. Like, because I have so many things on my computer, and it's like I could do a 3D animation, I could do a 2D animation, I can do some music, I could do, like, there's just so many options. Sometimes I'm like, which one should I do? Or I do something for 5 minutes and then something else another 5 minutes. So my struggle isn't not having enough ideas, it's that there's too many options at the same time. So I guess if I ran out of ideas, I don't know, you try something new. I always find if I do hit a wall with something, there's always like, another way to mix another media into it. If you're doing a 3D animation, you could cut into something 2D, or you could like just try a new technique or a new piece of software, or there's always some way to branch out and try something new and find inspiration in using new tools. And that's kind of how I feel like I've broken new ground all the time, is like you learn a new tool and you dream up a project that you can do with that tool, and that inspires an idea that you didn't even have on the outset. Like, you created an idea because you had to learn something. So that's kind of my go-to, to create something new and break new ground. 3D animation has really kind of opened up the doors, where it's like if you have an idea, you can literally do anything. Like, you can go online, and for a nominal fee, if I need a horse and a banana, I can buy those two things. I don't have to create it from scratch. I don't have to draw it. I can just buy one. So it's having all these assets at your fingertips. Is like you can literally do anything you want. I can make that chair morph into a horse and fly into the sky and get hit by lightning. But it's like you have all these things at your fingertips with plugins and whatever else. So it's kind of like there's no limitations on realizing your imagery. You can do anything and buy or find pretty much any object or image that you could ever want. Like stock imagery too. Like you need a picture of a dog, like a black dog. There's going to be thousands at every single angle that you could ever need, and you can find it, buy it, put it in your comp, and do it. So I just find it's all about finding the imagery and searching through things to find the imagery you want that works well, and then put it all together. So that's kind of the mental process, I guess. When I can, I like to make the music on my productions as well. Sometimes if I'm too busy, or if it's a big job, I obviously can't do every single part of the job, so sometimes I will hire outside composers. And I have some friends that I work with all the time in that regard. But when I can make my own music, it's kind of, I find my favorite projects that I've ever worked on are when all the visuals and the music are intertwined. So sometimes I've made video remixes where it's like, I'm using audio samples from the video and then making music out of them by tuning the audio and making like a chorus line or a hook line with the audio from the video, cutting the video to the audio, and I'm constantly bouncing in between audio software and video software until I have some cool beats and loops made out of the audio, bring it into the video software, cut it up, and then all of a sudden that'll spark an idea for doing some After Effects visuals on top of it or tracking some stuff on them, and that might spark a new musical idea because of the visual imagery. So it's like that intertwining the visual with the music is, I think, what really makes the composition strong, and that's kind of my favorite kind of music production. But it's also kind of a remixy style, like you're taking like audio samples and messing with them, and so yeah, that's kind of my musical process, or where I learned how to do music was through video remix. So it's kind of got that vibe, that remixy vibe to it. So, but yeah, it's a lot of fun. I use tons of VST instruments. I play a bit of guitar, a bit of piano, a bit of drums. I play a bit of everything. I'm not like super awesome at anything, but I can edit myself to sound pretty good. So I fake it a little bit, but it works out for me in post. So that's my jam. I guess it's always kind of different because some stuff is more 2D based in After Effects, other stuff is more 3D. Lately, in the last few years, I've been full tilt into Cinema 4D and Octane workflow, so doing a lot of 3D animation, but a lot of it is still, I guess because I kind of mostly do all my work by myself, it's that process I talked about before where I'm kind of bouncing between audio software, video software, 3D software, and it's kind of always in flux until the very end. Like, especially when I'm doing more video remix kind of a project, it's all about bouncing around between the audio software and the video software until you have some kind of a structure, and then adding some visual effects on top of that. But differently, the 3D stuff nowadays is just kind of like I'm building and building and building in 3D until you press render, and then, you know, mostly I try and time my stuff to like render at night while I'm sleeping, and then the next morning you have this like Christmas present that you can throw into After Effects and add some extra 2D effects and then put it out. And I'm talking mostly now just like little Instagram experiments and stuff like that. Right now it's like to do my commercial work has been kind of like I've been saying no to smaller jobs in the last while because I like to save room on my schedule in case a big job comes around, and it's kind of so all my spare time to do smaller work is just me doing experiments, learning new things, and putting it on Instagram and stuff like that to kind of like, you know, just expand my knowledge and make funny stuff to entertain people. So yeah, a lot of it is just kind of squeezing out something that I can do in an afternoon, like come up with a concept in the morning, bust it out, render it, and like still maybe throw 4 or 5 hours at like a commercial project in half the day or something, split my day half and half. So it's kind of a bit of juggling with the schedules and whatnot. And then all of a sudden if I get a big commercial job, I like don't have time for any of my own experiments for like 3 weeks or something like that. So it's very sporadic and random. Actually a joke, like back in the I want to say early 2000s, I don't know what year anymore, but my friend and I, Aaron, started this blog, and it was just us joking around, making the odd funny video on YouTube and just making stupid blog posts all the time. It was not a serious thing at all. We just kind of started posting stuff, but it kind of started getting more popular, and then I invited a few more friends in to post on this blog, and it was literally just all jokes and really dumb pictures and just like photoshops and whatever else. But it kind of got more and more popular, and as we started doing more video remixes and stuff like that, they became popular. But then, like, I don't know, my friends that were involved kind of fizzled out and didn't post anything anymore, so I just was still posting on it. So I'm kind of, you know, still rolling with this joke brand. But now it's kind of like, it's gotten to a point where it's kind of like a decently well-known name, and it's a stupid, funny word that's memorable, because if I just had my name out there, no one would remember it. So it's kind of like I've stuck with it, because it's, you know, it's easy to remember Smearballs. But it started from a stupid joke, because like I'm Dutch, and in Dutch, like a muscle I think is a spearballen is like your bicep. So I don't know, I made some joke about a spearball, and my friend misheard me and he said Smearballs, and we both laughed, and then it came from that stupid joke. So it's not really a great story, but it was it's just kind of a joke that went on too long, and now there's no stopping it. So I'm just gonna go with the flow. So I put my face into my projects every once in a while, because I did this project for Vice and Samsung, where we did a 3D VR render of my studio. So we took a LiDAR scan of my whole studio. We took a drone scan of my building. We built the exterior, interior, and then shot a video of me sitting at my computer, and then I comped all this stuff into it. And then we did all these animations on the side of me as well. So they paid for me to go get 3D scanned at one of those scanning places that makes the little statues, and then they gave me the 3D file that I could use to animate. So I don't know, I just have that model on hand, and I think it's funny to do some self-portraits, I guess, and put myself in stupid situations. So yeah, so I just have this nice realistic model of myself, so it's kind of a fun thing to put it out there. But I also I have tons of scans of other people too, but I don't know, it's just funny to put myself in those funny situations sometimes. And then my mouth is like wide open on the one, so sometimes, make stuff come out of it. I'm pretty fortunate because I always put these crazy videos out there because, like I said, I wasn't trying to get commercial work by doing that in the beginning. I was just making stuff to make my buddies laugh, or I just thought it was funny, and I put it on the internet and it started getting more popular. So eventually people started hiring me to do these crazy things. So luckily, there's a lot of brands that wanted to take a risk and just do something weird. And sometimes they fully come to me and are just like, what can you do with this footage? And just give me some footage and I just make something out of it. So it's kind of a pretty amazing luxury to have that, and people want me to just come up with these ideas. So most of the time, it's not really about me convincing them to do something crazy. It's just like they come to me to do something crazy. And I've had lots of projects that maybe I went overboard, or maybe not that I went overboard, but somebody would have asked me to do something crazy. I do something crazy and they love it, but they're like, this is awesome, but I don't know if we can put this out there. So sometimes, and I'm always happy to change it. I'm like, let me know what to change, and we'll change it. And we, bang out something that's acceptable and that they like, that's still funny. And sometimes all the funny stuff gets taken out and we're left with the watered down thing that I'm not very proud of, or I might not even share online. But, I'm always happy to bring a project to completion one way or another. So I find you just kind of have to deal with your client's comfort level and see what they're willing to do, and try and make something funny. But I'm not always about, on my own Instagram, people think I'm going to do these crazy things for my clients. And it's like, I don't, force my weird stuff onto my clients. Like, I don't want to make a KFC project have some guy with a butt on his face or something. That's not going to sell chicken. You know what I mean? So I always assess it. But the stuff I do on my own account for my own Instagram or whatever is the crazy weird stuff that I can't do on my commercial project. So that's a different kind of outlet, and I think most of my clients understand that too. It's like, oh, here's his skills on display, I can use those skills. And luckily I have pretty imaginative clients who can picture me working on their stuff and put it together, and that's what I've always been grateful for, is when people come to me and they're like, oh, how would this guy work with our client? And we set up some parameters for the project and execute it and hopefully make something cool. So luckily I've had tons of projects that I'm really proud of that were done with clients, with making even huge compromises on what is acceptable or what is still crazy and funny. And it's always a balance, but it's I've been super fortunate. YouTube in the early days definitely brought me a ton of opportunities. I haven't been posting on there as much because Instagram nowadays is such a short format, and it seems to be way more popular for just disseminating content in general. People share it, people repost stuff, and hopefully give you credit without stealing it. But it's like stuff can go kind of viral on the short term. In YouTube, I found that there's more if you have a big, longer form project over a minute or two, it's way more worth it to put on YouTube and spread it out that way as a big official release. But yeah, in the early days, all my work came from YouTube. I came here in 2010. I kind of was getting done with my construction career and starting to get paid for some video stuff, and I came to Los Angeles for 6 months in the winter to avoid the Canadian winter. And I made this remix of The View, the talk show in America, and I made this little musical thing with some crude tracking. And everything kind of stemmed from that one video. I put it out on YouTube, and all of a sudden I got a gig doing a web series for Mondo Media for the early YouTube days when they were doling out cash for content. And then that led into my job at Conan. So everything kind of stemmed from messing around on YouTube. So that all the jobs came from that. And now even on Instagram, I have people asking me to do their projects all the time. And it kind of is a great advertising tool. So that's where I focus my energy nowadays, to just kind of keep new work coming out and keep experimenting. I've started learning ZBrush and I'm still not very good at it, but I'm like getting to learn the sculpting skills, because it's not just about learning the software, it's actually the sculpting skills to learn, like to actually know how to build 3D shapes and to play with forms and more organic forms, and to to dial in detail and add pores to a face, or like all kinds of that sort of stuff. So that's what I'm really kind of excited about, is like building more of my own assets and getting super detailed in the ZBrush world. Doing more simulation kind of stuff. I mean, it's been on my radar for a long time, but trying to learn Houdini and get into more like weird simulation stuff would be cool, but I haven't really dove into that right now. It's just, I find every year it's like you add another $1,000 piece of software that you have to learn, and then if you don't use it, you're like feel guilty. So I'm like, I bought ZBrush and now I'm like, I gotta actually learn it and not let it sit on the shelf. So one thing at a time, slowly build it, because I already have too many things that I'm like sort of good at, but I don't put enough time into it, that you have to kind of balance your time accordingly. But so I'm trying to pick my battles, and right now ZBrush is a big one. So I actually have quite a bit of time for my side projects in general. Well, it depends. Like some months, like in the last 2018, I hardly had time for my side projects because I was so busy with commercial work. It was like one job after another. I was booked 3 months in advance, and I didn't have any time. And I actually start getting kind of stressed out and not feeling good if I don't do my own projects, because the commercial work is great, and I've been lucky with cool commercial work, but it just sets you on a course that you're kind of not in control of. Like these jobs come and you're like, you kind of go with the flow. And I sometimes feel like I'm not in the driver's seat sometimes, even though I'm very active and creative. I have a lot of creative control. It's just like you're going places because people are coming at you with jobs. So sometimes, like this last December and January, I actually turned down a lot of work so I could get back to doing my own thing. And I was like, I don't know, maybe it was kind of a midlife thing or something, but I turned 40 and I was just like, okay, I'm going to take a break. And I started drawing pictures again, which I haven't done in like 10 years. I started making a new album and working on music and just stuff that wasn't even for commercial use at all, just for me to get back to my old roots and skills and kind of do a reset. So lately I've had tons of time in the last couple months. And I also don't have any kids, and I, basically go and work on the computer all day, every day, for sometimes even 7 days a week. So it's, I've also been trying to dial that back and get some more exercise because I've gone a bit overboard the last couple of years. But I have ample time. I don't really watch a lot of movies or, sit back and do a lot of these passive things. So I kind of aggressively try and create as much as I can all the time. Like I said, I'm kind of lucky that I have been able to work with tons of people that I do want to cooperate with. Actually, one big one is Beeple, Mike Winkleman. We've become friends in this whole speaking circuit, and he came to Toronto a few times for FITC, and he's done Motion Plus Design as well. And we've kind of been talking, and I don't know, I kind of think it would be fun to work with him on a project and do something funny. We're both kind of in the same wheelhouse. We could share files and stuff like that. So I think that'll probably happen one day. We've kind of talked about it. And I think we're kind of waiting for the right commercial project to kind of team up on, because we're both so busy to like do a kind of, fun project on the side would be cool. But I think it would also be awesome if we could both work together and get paid. So I think we're kind of like waiting for something like that. I think it would be cool. So yeah, he's definitely one guy. And working with some like, huge name film directors would be amazing. Like I've been toying with like taking some of Tarantino's movies and doing something like what I did with The Chickening, and do something crazy. And then I think, oh man, I wonder if he would hate it or like it, because he's kind of got a remix vibe as well with his inspirations drawing from, old film styles and stuff like that. So I wonder how he would take with like actually chopping up one of his films and throwing it through the blender. He might hate it or he might love it. I don't know, but it would be cool to find out. It's kind of been in spurts. Like I said, the commercial work's kind of branched out to being like 3 to 4 week projects or bigger stuff for the most part. So I guess my ultimate balance would be like do a commercial project, make a bunch of money, take like the equal time off and do half and half. But it never ends up like that. It's usually more like 90% commercial work, 10% personal work. But that's changing right now too. I've been spending a bit more time on commercial work. I don't know what the ultimate is. I guess the ultimate is just not to burn out on the commercial work, like to have that stress. And as soon as I start feeling like, oh, I'm way too stressed, I have too many jobs on the horizon, I'm not doing stuff for me that's fun. I guess the balance is just not ever getting that feeling. Like doing enough commercial work that I feel like I'm still making money and having a career, but then also still spending ample time on my own stuff. Maybe it's like the ultimate would be 50-50. I guess the ultimate would be not to have to do commercial work and have enough money just to do my own thing all the time. That would be the ultimate, but right now I'd have to make money for my future and retirement, so let's say half and half. If I wasn't in the art industry, I guess I'd probably still be in construction. Honestly, like I made good money doing it, and I built a whole company doing all these renovations. But I also got, like, even though with my art, I always talk about being a remix artist and kind of altering things. That's what I was doing in construction as well. I was taking buildings and renovating them, turning them into stuff. I took an old ice house in Canada where they used to take the ice off the lake and store it in the summer, and we turned that into this beautiful cottage. And like, I don't know, I did all these like projects where I was kind of transforming buildings, and I kind of miss that actually, because now it's like it's satisfying building stuff in 3D, but there's something really satisfying about actually building something with your hands and like walking away and being like, wow, I built this giant building. And it's like kind of a different kind of satisfaction. It's more tangible to build something in real life than this 3D model online or the video that, I don't know, it just kind of seems like magic. It's not really a real thing. So I kind of miss that part of my life of building stuff because it was a lot of fun. And anytime I can do a little project or some woodworking thing in my shop or renovate my bathroom or something, I actually like doing it now, where at the end of my construction career I kind of hated it. So now it's kind of nice to be able to do that still. So yeah, maybe if this art thing doesn't work out, maybe I'll get back into that. So my advice to young designers, I did another talk in Holland last year, and I had to do portfolio reviews with students. And I was kind of just like, well, what do I tell these people? Because my experience was drop out of art school, do construction for 10 years, and make dumb, weird videos that you don't even care about commercial work and put them on YouTube. It's not really a viable plan that a student could tell their parents. Like, oh no, I'm gonna do what this guy did: drop out of school and make dumb videos. Like, it's not really viable advice. But what I can say is that all my work came from. I can track it all back. Everything. My advertising career kind of started because a bunch of ad creatives and ad execs in different parts of the world had seen my short film that I did for fun, chickening, that got into film festivals. And my earlier commercial work came from a remix I did of The View that got popular on YouTube that I did. I quit my job, moved to Los Angeles, and I made that in my spare time. So anytime I've done a project just for me to break new ground and do something that I like, that I thought people would like online, that I did completely away from the idea of making money or any of that stuff, just to do some cool art piece, led to more work for me. So I'd just say kind of, if you've got a cool style that you've developed, if you've got something unique that's, your own personal work that you feel is different than everyone else in the world, and you've got something to offer, don't stop. Don't hide your idea from the world, scared that someone's going to rip you off. Put it out there. Be proud of it. Pump it out and just do tons of it so no one can even rip you off, because you're just doing it so much of it that you're the person that does that and do it better than everybody else, and get it out there. And and work will follow if it's good. And but some our work, there is no work to follow, because some stuff can be so crazy that it's not going to lean into commercial work. So I guess you have to kind of assess your own work too and be like, would this apply to a commercial world, or is this more of an art thing that I want to pursue in the galleries or something like that? I mean, it's different for everybody. It's if there's something that, if you have a style that is commercially viable, maybe start gearing it towards that. But no matter what, just kind of follow what you love doing, and hopefully work will follow if there's a commercial application. Thank you for having me here. I just want to say that this is awesome. I went to Paris last year and had a blast in this beautiful theater, and spoke in front of 750 people, and I'm still kind of amazed that people want to hear what I have to say. So it's pretty cool to have done a second one and to be able to come to Los Angeles and meet all kinds of other designers. And that's kind of the most fun thing, is meeting all the other presenters and seeing everyone's work and getting inspired by other people. So I just hope that I can inspire some people as well in the audience, and some of the other artists and whatnot when I come here, and that's kind of my goal in the talk. But yeah, I just want to thank Motion Plus Design for having me, because this is just a great opportunity to meet people and to get my work out there, and maybe explain myself, because I'm sure if people see my work, sometimes they're like, what is that all about? So it's kind of cool to be able to talk about it and maybe explain things a little bit, or maybe confuse people even more. But yeah, it's a great opportunity, and I'm super appreciative.